What's up, y'all? Welcome back. Welcome back. Today, I'm here with 3 book reviews. Let's get it.
Favorite reader, that's who you are. Traveling near, traveling far. Through every chapter, you're the star. Favorite reader, that's who you are.
Okay, let's not waste no time and get right into it. The first book I'm reviewing is Forgotten Readers: Recovering the Lost History of African American Literary Societies by Elizabeth McHenry. This was such a good book, but it was such a dense book as well. This book highlights the literary societies of free Black people. Actually, there's something that I wanted to read from here that kind of sums up this book. So it starts off with the introduction, talking about the importance of literary societies, the importance of talking about the working free class Black Americans and not overlooking that demographic. It talks about what role reading played in Black Americans' lives. And something that I found interesting is there's obviously like reading itself is kind of solitary, but there are communal spaces. But this book really highlights like the importance of documenting things so that it can like be referenced later and be a part of history. Like there is so much historical data, journals, newspapers, magazines outlining like white book clubs, white readers, white literary thought. And the Black community is missing from that because this book also talks about redefining. If y'all hear my kids, it's clearly I'm in a living room. They're a little loud, but this book talks about redefining the way that we think about what literature is. So redefine literature in the classic sense, like what constitutes as literature. Certain poetry that was considered Black poetry at the time wasn't really considered literature, and some other things. Very, very interesting. So yeah, this book takes a look at the Black working class, Black reading communities pre-Civil War. Also, as we know, the Black experience is not a monolith. It's divided up into cultures, regions, things like that. But there is an overall umbrella that I feel like a lot of it falls under. Like I said, it does heavily go into redefining literature in the same way that it goes over redefining resistance and how reading can be resistance or literary circles can be resistance. What I liked about this book, outside of the fact that it focused on like the Black working class, I liked that it made me look at like literary spaces being visible and reading and literacy being visible. It kind of, again, this is a dense book. The way that it's packaged, I would imagine, like, I wouldn't recommend this book to every person because of the way that it's packaged is very, I don't know. I can see like the subject matter is one I think is important for all people to know and to think about and to read. But this book, I can imagine would be boring for some people. I've said that about a few books. I enjoyed it, but I know like the way that it's written is not as engaging, but the subject matter I think is super, super important. This book made me think about, I said this when I reviewed Black Boy by Richard Wright, and how fiction was looked at in the like during that time, and then like the rise of fiction, but how people at that time looked at it like pointless or like um depending on the space you were in, they thought it was like heathenistic, or they thought it was like mind numbing, or just like, why are you reading it? It's fairy tales, and not always in a good way, it can pollute your mind, things like that. And how that perception has shifted over the years is very, very interesting to think about. If I like go back in time and think about how fiction was viewed, first of all, reading, period, but then reading fiction. Super interesting. That's discussed in here, which I enjoyed. But overall, I think I really, really liked reading about how literary societies and communities were formed, the importance of them, the importance of documenting and being visible in this space because Black readers exist. They did then, they do now, and their trails are important. So that's what I really liked about this book. Subject matter great. I wouldn't say everybody you have to read this. I feel like everybody should know this history, but the way that it's packaged, I don't feel like would appeal to a whole lot of people. I'm interested though when people read this, what do they think about it? Because it's great information. It really is. It's just the package could be like, yeah. So good information, great book, very, very eye opening. It took me a few weeks to get through this. Super good when you think about like just the role of literature over the decades and how the meaning of somebody reading has even changed over time and what it meant for Frederick Douglass, what it means for me, what it meant for my grandma, what it meant for, you know what I mean? Yeah, good book in my opinion. I believe it's a good book. Some people might say it's kind of boring, but the history of it, the conversation is important to have. And yeah, it was cool. Good book. Okay. The next book, I'm actually going over these in the order that I read them. The next book is The Known World by Edward P. Jones. This book won a Pulitzer Prize. Yeah. And my copy is so beat up because I've had it a long time. And I've started this book multiple times. I've never gotten past like a chapter or two. I always start maybe more, definitely no more than 3 chapters at a time. And what I realized when I read past that, I think what has previously made me close the book is it came across as disjointed and disorganized when I first opened it. And I was just like, this is just jumping all over the place. I'm not in the mood for it. The thing is, after a while, I don't know if I settled into the rhythm of the flow, but I found myself like totally dived in and like enveloped by the story where I wasn't even focused on, I was comfortable in how it was told, and it took place unconsciously. Like at first I remember being almost irritated with how the story was being told. It just seemed disjointed. And then like random, like before I knew it, through osmosis, I don't know. Before I knew it, I was so into the story, I found myself enjoying the way that it was organized and structured. So I will say that the structure and the organization of the book is a little unconventional. Don't give up if you anything like me. Don't give up because it stays the way that it is, but something shifts and you're more invested in the story. And so you kind of like see the way that it's told, the structure, the organization as part of it. And I think that's some of the brilliance in it. So yeah. Anyways, if you don't know, this book is primarily about a black slave owner in a fictional town in Virginia. This book details how he came to be, like how he was born, his family, his master on a plantation. How it starts off with him being sick, but then you get flashbacks to like him as a boy, how things kind of shifted, the way his mindset developed. And then, so you get that, but at the same time that the history is being told, he dies. He leaves his wife to his plantation where he owns slaves. Like he literally owns slaves. Mind you, he was born a slave. He was born a slave and his parents bought his freedom. He dies and leaves everything to his wife, who says, you know what? These slaves are my legacy. This plantation that my husband built, put his hard-earned tears and time into. He was the best master ever. I'm going to honor him and my legacy, and I'm going to care for these people and what my husband built. I don't even know if she would call them people, but I'm going to care for this and keep it going. And you just get to see what happens. Like, yes, it's about what happens on the plantation and with his wife Caldonia, but Henry, who is the slave owner that this man, like, he's the nucleus slave owner of all this. Henry, you just get to see, like, this book is so layered, it's so complex, it's so challenging at times, because you can kind of see how conflicting ideals, conflicting values, how you can essentially brainwash yourself. Like, you can see how this all takes place within one body, with Caldonia, with Henry, with Henry's parents, with the white master who used to own Henry that took him under his wing. Like, you get to see how all this plays out, how other black people look at Henry, how free blacks look at the enslaved. You just get to see the whole gambit, and there's so many things at play, and I appreciated the way that it was handled. Very interesting book. Now, there is a lot of characters. There's a lot of characters in this book, but you just go with it. Like, don't think too much about it. The people that you really, really need to know and be focused on, they will naturally rise to the top. So there are a whole lot of characters in here, but not everybody holds the same merit and weight in the story. But yeah, very, very interesting book. The whole time I was reading it, yes, I was interested in Henry and how something that his mama and daddy said to him when they first found out that he was about to be a slave owner. He got property, and he was, he was making his moves. And something that his parents said reminds me of something that I've said to people that I love before. And it's just like, it's just interesting to see how you think that some things are innate. You think that you don't have to ingrain certain things into people. You don't have to come out and say, this is wrong. Like, because you know what Henry was doing? He was creating and operating in his known world, that plantation life. And he ain't see nothing wrong with it. That's wild. But yeah, so interesting book. Very, very good. I put this off for years. It's so like, this is something I can see myself rereading. I don't know when, 10 some years from now, but this is something I can see myself rereading, and probably at some point will want to read it with my kids. But yeah, very, very good book. Last book. Okay, I just recently finished this yesterday. That is The Seven Daughters of Dupree by Nikisha Elise Williams. This is a good book. This is a good book. A historical fiction book about the seven daughters of Dupree. 7 generations of women, what they've endured, what they've overcome, how they handled and dealt with trauma, small acts of resistance, what they've had to just put up with, this curse that they feel like has been passed down from generation to generation, them thinking back over their lineage and like considering what their ancestors been through, and just generation after generation after generation of women, yes, pouring into the next generation, but also unresolved trauma and guilt and pain and sometimes shame and anger and bitterness and all that too, rightfully and some not so rightfully, but gets passed down in a way too, because that spills over. And just how much people endure, like black women, how much, like, this was a great book. Great book. It starts off with you follow almost all the women at some point, but it starts off with Tati, and she want to know who her daddy is, and you kind of get to follow that storyline. But over like throughout that, you get flashbacks to her mom's life. You get flashbacks to her grandma's life and her great grandma, her grandma before that, all the way to like her enslaved ancestor. And there's a scene at the end of this book, well, towards the end, it literally made me sick to my stomach. So there is some, like, it was brutal. It's just like when you really think about it, so much has been endured. This book made me think about my grandma. And God rest her soul. She, in full transparency, I remember like I remember so many times I would be like, man, like my grandma's being so mean. Like she is so mean. She's so mean. She always do XYZ. Like, but I would see these little glimmers of kindness. She would do things where I thought was genuine displays of like her showing love or like genuine displays of kindness. And I would just be like, where is this coming from? But now that I'm older and I'm thinking back, those both parts of them, both parts and sides of her were both a part of her. And I was sitting there thinking about how mean she was. Like, how can you say stuff like this? How can you do stuff like that? Like, why would you talk to people like that? Why are you thinking about people like that? And I have the slightest idea of what she actually went through, like what made her into that person. I know bits and pieces, very little. And I'm thinking like, it's so easy to judge like from the outside, especially from a child's perspective, when you don't have a clue of like whose shoulders you standing on. And I think about this often with my big sister, like, you really got to take some time and like step back and think about the women and men, but like the me in my situation, yeah, men too, but like I think about the women in my life who gave me a leg up, pushed me a little bit, and sometimes at their expense. And that's what this book made me think of, and I any day of the week would do the same for my little sister, my niece. You know what I mean? And it's just like, oh, yeah. The way that this story developed worked for me. Sorry, my alarm going off. The way that this story developed really worked for me. Like, I like the way that it unfolded. I like the way that the story was told. And I found myself super invested in all the generation of women, seeing in them their strength and resilience, yes, their flaws. And you just feel for them, man. You feel for them. You can see the experience and the pain and like how your unique identity plays a role into what you're born into your lineage, into your genetics. And another thing, before I get off this book, this book made me think about a whole lot of people in my family, because I distinctly remember having a conversation with somebody about the fact that I can't even put their business out there like that. But let me say this. I really like, I ain't trying to get on here and preach, but I really urge people to really see the value in themselves outside of a broken mirror. Like, really see the value in you as a human being. You are not some man's side piece. Why he go home to his wife? That man out of order. And that's you're not, don't reduce yourself to that. You know what I mean? Like, don't reduce yourself to when somebody wants to be bothered with you in any relationship. And that's where I'm gonna leave that. But yeah, this made me think about a lot of stuff. Such a good book. Oh my goodness. Yeah, such a good book. That's it for today, y'all. It's 3 books I wanted to talk about so I can get back on my shelf. Yeah, let me know if you read any of these. All were good. In their own unique way. You know, like they all were good in their own way. And I've said it a million times. I'm gonna probably say it a million more. It feels good to read good books. It just something about opening up a book and knowing like, oh yeah, I like this. It just overtakes you. It feels good. So yeah, that's it, y'all, for the day. Let me know if you read any of these, if you want to, if you have them and been sitting on your shelf. Like I told you, this has been on my shelf for a minute. I think I moved 10 times with this book. It looks so dusty and dirty too. This book done been through the ringer. I don't know where I got it, but I know it's done been packed, unpacked, moved, thrown, look like stained, all type of stuff on this book. I know y'all probably can't see it on the camera that this book been through it. But anyways, that's it, y'all. That's it. And I'm gonna see y'all on the next one.
Pages turning soft as silk, stories flowing like warm milk. A journey starts with every line, worlds unfolding in your mind. Bookmarks falling where dreams collide. Every cover's got a tale inside. Favorite read.